This is the Oz report for September 11th, 2021. And we're going to be starting, let's start with Abyssal Materials, as we do very often. And the reason for that is that we are seeing the rally that I kind of predicted, or that was starting a week ago. We're seeing that continue, which is fantastic. Because I'm holding a lot of this. So crystalline isogen and 0-point condensate are the two abyssal materials, and they have started going back to the place where I would like to see them in the long run, and where I think they can go again. If you follow the stream or my podcast, then you know that these are down because of the production changes and the popularity of abyssal space. If you look at the 5 most popular abyssal filaments, which are these right here: the chaotic electrical, the chaotic exotic, the raging electrical, the raging exotic, and the raging gamma, those are the 5 with the highest trade volume. They have all in the past week gone down in popularity, so in trade volume. And if you look at the statistics on Abyssal Tracker or Abyss Tracker, you will see the same. So it's flat at best and probably going down a little bit, and that means that the supply of the abyssal materials is going down, while the production numbers on the Triglavian ships that use these are still low, but flat. And so I'm expecting these to be slowly rising in price, and in the end that will also mean rising prices again on Triglavian ships, which are extremely cheap right now considering the April industry changes. So obviously they all had a big jump in price after those changes, but then they dropped quite significantly because the abyssal materials were so cheap, and that's going to be turning around now, I think. Another interesting thing to look at is Ancient Salvage. So Ancient Salvage had a big rally when they had the T3C, the strategic cruiser buff. They had a big rally, and that is now over. I think the popularity of the T3Cs has gone back down. It didn't really catch on, and now we're seeing things like the heuristic self-assemblers and the neurovisual input matrix, 2 of the most traded ancient salvage materials, come back down. And this week they crashed pretty hard, back to pretty much 52-week lows on the heuristic self-assemblers, and the input matrix is still kind of hanging on, but yeah, this is back very, very low. The question on whether that's a good time to jump in on them is whether T3Cs will be used more in the future. It's going down to a point where the risk of investing in it is quite low, though, because if you look at the popularity of the T3Cs, you can see that it's just pretty low right now. So keep an eye out for those. Might be a very good investment there. Another interesting thing that is going on right now, I hinted at that last week, is the fuel blocks. The fuel blocks, because of the isotope hype that was going on in the PAPI evacuation, we talked about that at length in the past. Because that was going on, there was no isotopes in the market. Nobody could produce fuel blocks. Fuel blocks went up in price. Those prices have come down now. Pretty much all of the fuel blocks are between 25 and 27K again. That is the same as pre-evacuation. The things that go into fuel blocks now, mainly these 5 things right there that I have listed there: the coolant, enriched uranium, mechanical parts, robotics, and strontium. They were all dropping in price because nobody was making the fuel blocks. We talked about that last week. Now, since last week, coolant has recovered spectacularly. This was a very, very good buy. I hope you followed my advice last week. That was a very good buy. Enriched Uranium hasn't, and robotics hasn't either. On the contrary, robotics has been really struggling lately. It's recovered a little bit to 57, but you know, it's very tough. Enriched uranium on robotics are fairly easy to make in PI, so that might be one reason why, you know, it hasn't come back. Coolant isn't that much harder, but the supply in the market was just less. So might be a good time to look at robotics and enriched uranium here to come back up to pre-evacuation levels. Mechanical parts have jumped up a little bit, so there probably the upside isn't as big. Strontium has kind of hit the pre-evacuation level again, or actually the March-April level, and this might be a good investment right now as well at 4.8 buy price. This might be quite a good time to jump in. Skill points is the next thing I want to talk about. For that, I'm quickly going to pull up my my skill point analysis here on my spreadsheet. Skill point analysis. If you watch my watch my stream frequently, you know that I always look at skill farming return or revenue or profit rather, because it's a good indicator of where cerebral accelerators, skill injectors, and Plex is going to go. Right now it's pretty much at an equilibrium, so skill farming is a zero-sum game at the moment. You get out what you put in, but you get a free Omega account out of it. That's why it is at a point where a lot of people are doing it again. Keeping that in mind, if you go back at the components of skill farming like Plex right now is rather high. It looked like it was coming back down to previous levels, but then it spiked back up to pretty much the 52-week high. So it's holding on. That is bad for skill farming because it's costing you more to run your Omega account. And the large skill injectors, on the other hand, they are increasing quite quickly. And so this is an indicator of people returning to the game because you know, we had a long time where large skill injectors were dropping in price. That made skill farming unprofitable because there was nobody actually picking them up. Now we're seeing, you know, probably the late result of people stopping skill farming, so stopping filling large skill injectors and putting them on the market, combined with people coming back and actually buying up these skill injectors. So now you're actually seeing increased prices again. These increased prices in large skill injectors mean that there is an increased cost of skill points. So the large skill injector is the easiest way to get skill points. And what that means for cerebral accelerators is that we're seeing the Master at Arms, we talked about that last week as well, the Master at Arms Cerebral Accelerator and the Expert Cerebral Accelerator, they were jumping in price so much that there's pretty much no Expert Cerebral Accelerators left. All right. For most people, there's no reason to buy these because the large skill injector is actually the cheaper way of getting the skill points. Unless you have 80 million plus skill points on your account, because then the large skill injector becomes very inefficient to use. Interestingly enough, this is more of a public service announcement, but fits into that discussion. The Rebel class cerebral accelerators that were active for the last 3 months, they are the limited time event ones. They are there's not that many of them left, and they will cease to be effective this week. This also means that they should be coming down in price, but they're not really. They're going up in price, and they are way too expensive right now. So these are really, there's no point in anyone using these, because at the current prices they're just not efficient. It's cheaper for most players to just get a large skill injector, and that's the cheaper way of acquiring the SP. But make sure if you still have these, make sure you get rid of them, because they will cease to be effective in about 3 days, I think, on the 14th, something like that. multiple pilot training certificates on the same time. This is still quite expensive, and today they actually spiked up to 1.4 billion, which is, you know, up here. This is very expensive. If you're holding on to the multiple pilot training certificates for investment, right now is a good time to sell them. Another public service announcement is the Galnet Streamcast skins. These are very, very attractive skins. They are being given away on CCP streams, and they changed it so that it's not a random giveaway anymore when you're watching the stream, but now it's a redemption of your channel points. And that means that these are just going to crash in price. They already did. I was holding on to one of these. I was hoping to get about 10 billion more that I'm going to get now. So yeah, that's in typical CCP fashion. They didn't lie, or they weren't untruthful about it, but they just crashed the market that some people were investing in. So yeah. Good reminder that limited edition skins are just a very, very, very risky investment, and you should always expect CCP to come out with another round of skins that might crash your price. Yeah. So some random things to close out today's Oz report. I said last week about the freighters, right? I said they cost 5 billion to make. They're trading at 3 billion. At some point, these are going to increase in price. Whether people took me by my word, or whether this is just the natural cause that the markets take, some of them really exploded in price. The Charon went from 3 to 3.7 billion. The Fenrir went from 3 to 3.8 billion. I myself, this is no secret at all. I'm holding a ton of these. This is probably the biggest single position that I have. These are right now still trading at about 40% below build cost. The jump freighters, the much more expensive version of this, they're actually trading more like 80-90% of cost, of build cost. So the upside there isn't that much, and I do think that build cost is going to come down in the long run a little bit as people get more of the components, as mineral prices might come down from the end of scarcity phase in Q4. So there's a lot of reasons why prices might still come down, but they're definitely not going to come down 40% as they have been on the freighters, and that's why I bought up any freighters that I could, when they were still below 3 billion. Now I'm not buying more at the moment because I have too many, but I think in the end these could easily hit 4.5 billion in the next few months. So they're still trading just too cheaply. They can't be replaced replaced at this price. So another thing trading too cheaply is the Ferox. The Ferox is a popular ship. It's currently trading below build price pretty much. 48 is insane. If you can get the buy price at 43 million, that's even better. And you can see by the orange dot distribution that it's not that hard to get your buy orders fulfilled here. So if you get buy orders in here for 43 million, get some Feroxes there, that's a fantastic investment. Drone cerebral fragments, a rogue drone part that just absolutely went nuts. If you have these lying around, make sure you get rid of them right now. I'm guessing the person that is putting 5,000 up at 599 might be the guy that bought the market out, but somebody bought it out. And it's a good time to sell these. Closing out with the Macarial. The Macarial has dropped a lot in price over the last few months after the April industry changes where it became much more expensive. If you look at the price right now, you can see two interesting things. One, most of those for sale are in Oijanen, which is the fraternity low-sec forge trade hub that is 9 jumps from JITA. This is quite new, a few months old, but it's really it's gaining some traction. So you can see that they're trying to supply the market very well. But even in JITA, this is hitting 687 million, which is fairly cheap. If you look at the LP trade-in value, that's about 700 to 800 per LP. And that is low. That's rather low. And so I think the material is a good investment right now. Cool. Hope you guys like that. We're going to go back to the regular stream and I'll see you next week.